Hello everybody and welcome to Master Tape Theater. We're the world's first and only video podcast dedicated to the preservation and history of live audience recordings. And I am of course your host, the one-man crime spree, the root of the cancer and the poisonous fruit, Roy Goddamn. And I am joined by my esteemed colleague, the Duke of Danzig, the Alpha Romeo, Eric the Ladies Fight for His Delight Lawton. Eric, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing all right, man. A little tired, but it's been a long week, but I'm doing all right. I'm still rocking and rolling here.
Awesome, man. So this week I want to say thank you to everyone because we have had 6,000 views in just 21 days. So 6,000 Master Tape Network fans can't be wrong, Eric.
Fucking A.
So this week we're going to go ahead and get to a few viewer questions. Eric, what do you have for me?
All right, let me start with Marco Leitonen. Was it harder to film in smaller venues or bigger arenas, or does it make a difference?
Well, there's actually a huge difference with both of those scenarios for filming a show. When it comes to filming in a club, every single shoot is going to be different. I mean, sometimes you're going to be in a club with a nice rail and you can conceal the camera and shoot downward towards the band if they have an elevated section. But I've gone to great lengths, and I must say that filming in a club is much more difficult than filming in an arena. Now, when you film in an arena, I guess really for me, that was always my favorite way to film because I would just basically go all the way to the back of the arena because the further away you are from the band, the easier it's going to be on the security situation. And I would just let the lens and the camera do all of the work for me. You would be shocked at some of the videos that I've shot from literally the last seat in the very back of an arena, Eric. It's definitely two different things.
All right. Let me go with number two. We got Marco Daria asks, did any artist actually pay you for your footage?
Well, my footage has been used on several home videos, not just Kiss in Burbank 95, but I actually filmed a band called Lords of Acid in San Francisco back in 1997. That actually was used by the band on one of their home videos with no credit to me, they never asked me to do it. I mean, they really didn't have a way to contact me because that was just one of those weird shows that I did. Not really a normal show that you would think Roy Goddamn would be at, but my second wife really was into the band and her best friends, so they were just like, please go do this for us. And I already filmed Manson there back in 95 at the Trocadero in San Francisco. So I filmed the show, and eventually they actually used it for their home video, no payment. Of course, we know there was no payment from Kiss, no credit from Kiss. I'm sure Tommy Thayer got paid for it. But
you got a good gig, right?
Yeah, he did. He's the spaceman. But basically, it's the closest I guess you could say I ever got paid to filming, with the exception of friends saying, please come out and film my band. I'll give you $500 to make us a video or something dinky shit like that. But I guess I'll tell you a story about me and Marilyn Manson. So Marilyn Manson's actually probably one of the only bands that I've worked for that's given me money. Not only has he given me a little here and there to make sure that I got to the shows and stuff, because I kind of was an official videographer for him from 94 to 96. But so in 1996, I was in Wilmington, Delaware, and I was on tour. It was the Antichrist Superstar tour. And Jesse Dryden was with me, a good friend of mine. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was a college student in Wilmington, Delaware. So I'm at one hotel with my girlfriend that was near the campus, and Jesse went to another hotel so we could have time alone. And so Jesse basically calls me the next morning and he's like, dude, please tell me you've got the car. And I'm like, fucking what are you talking about? Got the car, man. You've got the car and I don't even know where you're at right now. So he's just like, I had a car we used to call it the Pantera Mobile.
Nice. Walk on home, boy.
Well, I was about to actually have to walk on home because my Pantera mobile was stolen. It was a 1985 Firebird, like, you know, classic. It just looked like something that you would see at a Pantera concert, man. But and that's why we called it that. But so it turns out it got stolen, and they actually did find it on concrete blocks. At the very last minute, they found the car. But I did go to the show that night, and Manson was nice enough to give me the money to buy a new car so that I could get back to California, continue a few more dates on the tour that we had planned. And, you know, I guess you could say that's one of the bigger paydays from a band that I've had. You know, he just was willing to take care of me because I'd shot a lot of video for them, man.
Pretty nice.
Yep, and that's another crazy story,
Manson.
man. Yeah, he was, you know, there was a time when he was just Brian Warner and we ate pizza and did crazy things and watched Kiss bootlegs and hung out, you know, but, you know, I did do work for him, and we'll be talking much more about Manson in the weeks and shows that are coming on in the near future. All right, Eric, so do you have any more questions for me, man?
Yeah, we got another one here from Paul Garboot. He asks, who designed the covers for the KISSVision Remaster DVDs? Also, he adds, I had great fun recreating them when I got poor quality copies.
Well, I'm not sure if this is the guy, but I actually remember that when I started making the DVDs, all the fans wanted, you know, perfect quality versions of the covers. So I'm thinking this may be the guy. There was actually a website where a guy went in and to the most minute detail, he recreated the entire KISSVision Remasters series DVD covers. I mean, he scanned in all the images, got high quality logos. And I mean, there was actually one incident where I was looking for one of the covers and I couldn't find the file. And I went to his website and got my cover from his website. So, and then this week we had some people that were like, you were the only person who could possibly make DVDs or give other, you know, Kiss vendors those DVDs and those covers and that quality. But this would be a perfect example of how exactly easy it was for anyone with graphic skills to make the covers and make them available for everyone. And anybody with $500 and the will and intestinal fortitude to push through could have figured out how to make copies of all of my DVDs. So to say that I'm the only guy that could have made DVDs in the year 2002, 2003 is crazy. I mean, I was one of the first, but I was not the only. So, you know, that's definitely the rock bottom story on that one, man. You know, that I was the creator, but other people recreated them, dude. So, any more questions?
We got one last question from Charles Butch Judge. He asks, will you do an interview with Dave Stryker?
Well, it's funny you should ask me that because I actually reached out to Dave Stryker this week. I offered him a chance to come on the show, and I hope he's going to take it. I haven't heard back from him yet. But I just, you know, I had another person this weekend on one of our message boards tell me that I needed to check out Three Sides of the Coin, a visual evolution, the true story of KISSVision on Three Sides of the Coin. So I tuned into that show and, you know, their mouths are moving. They're like robots, but you know, I pushed through and I watched the whole episode and I heard the true story of KISSVision. So I reached out to Dave this week and I'm hoping he will hopefully come on the show in the near future and tell maybe a more detailed version of his history with bootlegs and his involvement with the KISSVision name. I'm just hoping he'll come on the show and we can talk a little bit more about that someday. So, right. You know, but also this week, Eric, I reached out to Phil Elliott. You know, this is the end of the road episode. Because really, this is not a KISS podcast. Now, I know I talked a lot about KISS in episode 2, and even more about KISS in episode 3 with the true story of KISSVision Remasters. But this isn't a KISS podcast, man. And we're pretty much just going to wrap it up here, but I you know, and say goodbye to KISS. Good. Yeah, very good. So
glad to hear it.
So I reached out to Phil Elliott this week, and this is pretty much what happened. I spoke to him twice, and he has agreed to pretty much come on and be on the show. He wants to think about it a little bit more, because he says he's still sore about everything that happened with him and Kiss, and it's sort of a sour subject for him. But Phil had come back, I guess, in 2010 and 2013 again, and he did a couple of conventions, I believe, in one in Atlanta, maybe one in Charlotte. But he had said that, that was a big thing for him. He didn't know if he wanted to come back and praise a band that had been so bad to him. But he did it. And he did it because all of the fans begged him to come back and do another convention so the whole old gang could get back together. And that's really cool and commendable. But one of the more interesting pieces of our conversation, and I hope that I can get Phil to come on and tell us himself, but he had told me that shortly after everything happened, it pretty much went down just like I told you. They brought him into a court proceeding, brought him a written statement that was not his words, coerced him with fear tactics, forced him to sign under the threat of being sued himself for $7 million. So of course he signs off. Roy Damm's the worst guy on the planet, so he signs off on that. And that allowed them to try to pursue me as the creator of the DVDs without any proof. But, really, dude, I just want to put it to bed, man. Kiss operates on a level of greed and stuff that I can really only describe with one word. It's just disgusting, man. And what he told me, though, was that he got a call from Bruce Kulick. Let me get back to this. He got a call from Bruce Kulick, and Bruce Kulick told him shortly after the court proceedings that he would, that they were just trying to scare him and they were never going to try to collect. And that may be why they never tried to contact me. And that might be why I never heard from them, or, I'm not really sure, man. I mean, we may never get to the bottom of what was going on Kiss's side of the camp. All I have is the documents that were presented to my now dead father. By the way, dude, I don't know if you noticed, but on the auction, this shit's up to $1,500 right now, dude.
Oh, nice.
So, that's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing. That means people do care and they do want to hear the truth and the real story of Roy Damm and KISSVision. So you'll be able to read all the details. But that's it, man. We're done. I called Phil. I called Dave Stryker. I offered them a chance to be on the show. Maybe we'll revisit it another time. I'm not saying we're never going to talk about Kiss again. We may revisit Kiss again in the future. But for right now, we're going to move on to more history, more archiving, the art of bootlegs, the history of bootlegs. In fact, that leads me to another exciting development that happened this week, Eric. So this week I was contacted, but not one, but two different people that are friends with Pierre and Eric. Now you might remember in episode 1, Eric and Pierre are without a doubt the forefathers of bootlegs. They are the blueprint. They are the guys who filmed all the big shows in Canada. So the first guy contacts me and he says, a lot of the stories and the details that you have were untrue. So he proceeds to tell me his version of Eric and Pierre's story. And we're going to correct everything that I said next week, because I have reached out to Eric and Pierre. I have actually got a response through the second person that contacted me. Now, the second person that contacted me is actually a lifelong friend of Eric's. He was in bands with Eric, knew Eric and Pierre personally, was around at the time that they did everything. So next week, I'm excited to announce that we're going to have a special guest. He's asked to remain anonymous, but he will be on the show. He is going to tell us a detailed account of how they did everything that they did. I don't want to give all of that away this week on the show, Eric, but it's really exciting, and I now know the whole story. And next week on the show, we're going to do a complete focus and an expose on Eric and Pierre. And even though I'm going to have Eric's buddy on, I just want everyone to know that I've reached out to Pierre, and I have not yet heard from him. I'm hoping that he will want to come forward and tell his side of the story and his version of the history that he created, and essentially just come forward and reclaim the credit that he deserves for being the blueprint of bootlegs. And, Pierre, I know you're watching this. Many people have told you about the show. I know you've already seen it. please, man, think about everything that I said in my message, and please come on the show and share your story. I'm going to go ahead and have Eric's buddy on next week, and he's going to tell us as much as he can about you guys' story. But until we have you come forward and tell your version of this history, we will always have to rely on secondhand information, or, at best, what we have next week, which is firsthand information of someone that was there, knew him, was in bands with him. And I'm really excited about next week's show, Eric.
Absolutely.
Another thing we have going on, I want to tell everybody, this is a major announcement just in time for Kissmas. We are going to have our
Kissmas.
Yeah. So we are going to have our very first t-shirt. Now, this is a Master Tape Network t-shirt. It features our very cool logo with a skull and crossbones VHS tape. You can be the coolest guy in town and be the first one on your block to have one of these shirts. These are custom-made t-shirts that are, each one is done by hand on the highest quality materials are being used. T-shirts, the silk screening materials that we're using are top-notch. These shirts will last you a lifetime. But check on the website, on Facebook, and on this at the end of the show, there's going to be a link in the description of how to get the shirts. And I'm excited, man. We finally have merch. We're as cool as all of the big rock brands out there now.
I hope I get one someday.
I'm gonna send you one. You're gonna look very cute in that shirt, Eric.
Oh, fabulous.
So I'm sure a lot of people are going, what is he gonna tell now? And what could he possibly say that could top Kiss and $7 million and being chased by his idols or his one-time idols? I have a story right now that is going to indeed top the KISSVision $7 million lawsuit, Eric. I'm going to tell everybody, I used to live in Washington State. I moved to Washington State in the year 1998. And I began filming shows there, and I got a few relationships with local record stores, and they actually were Ticketmaster outlets, and some of the guys that worked there were fans of my work. So they get in on the act, and they start basically, they find a way to punch in codes and give us front row balcony tickets. And, my video work in the years 98, 99, 2000 is just off the charts as far as the sound and the video quality. The cameras had finally come up to a certain standard. I had finally found the Willie mic. I was making history. So good friend of mine by the name of Joe in Philadelphia. He's the king of Philly. Lots of people know about him. He has a channel on YouTube that you can check out called Market and 8. Joe's going to be on the show in the very near future to tell a lot of stories because he is really good at what he does. But so Joe calls me up and he says, hey dude, there's a guy, his name is Tom. You've never met him. And he used to live in Washington, D.C. area, and he filmed a lot of shows out there. And he's going to be moving to Seattle, and he's going to be at the Bauhaus concert.
Oh.
So, Bela Lugosi is dead. So, I was going to go in and film the show.
I love it.
And so Joe tells me, Tom's going to be there. So I'm there to film the show, and I've got my gear. And I look over to my right, and it was actually not that many people in the balcony of the theater that night. It was mostly a floor crowd, so we were kind of exposed up in the balcony getting ready to film. And, I look over to my right, and sure as hell I see a guy with a backpack and a bag just like me. So I just, the show's about to start, and I go up and I tap him on the shoulder, and I'm like, is your name Tom? And he's like, holy shit. Like, how do you know my name? And Tom was the most unassuming guy. Like, you wouldn't even expect this guy to be there. He was very sort of a nerdy looking guy, had an extreme limp. Like, you just wouldn't think that he was an amazing bootlegger, And so he's like, how do you know me? And I'm just like, well, I'm Roy, Supersonic Videos. I'm pretty sure you know me. We may have traded in the past and everything. So I tell him, and he's like, oh, and well, Joe told me you were going to be here, so we're kind of exposed up here. Why don't I help you film the show instead of me filming it? And that way I can help block for security for you and everything. So he proceeds to film the show. It came out pretty cool and everything. But So that begins the first, you know, of a mini shows that me and Tom began to do together. And like I told you, we had a record store and they were getting us front row tickets. So now me and Tom start to do 2 camera mixes. And these are not your daddy's bootlegs, man. I mean, these are well put together, blow out your eyeballs and your ears, just the best stuff you've ever seen and heard, man. So we're killing it. We're killing it all over Washington State. We're filming every band that comes to town, and, you know, we're working as a team, and, you know, I do my thing and Tom does his, but eventually Tom begins to sell VHS copies of the shows that we're doing at a local record show at the Key Arena. They have a record show there, and so Tom sets up and starts selling, and he has a little company. He's calling himself Tomcat Video, I believe was the name of it. But so, you know, sure enough, he's there, and one day an RIAA agent comes along his path. And, you know, that RIA agent starts to buy tapes, and he starts asking Tom questions, and Tom's really bold. I filmed these. I've got the masters and everything. And turns out that Tom had filmed a concert of Bruce Springsteen. And it was at the Meadowlands Arena.
No fun.
Yeah. Man. You know, born in the USA, born to run, born to sell.
Blah, blah.
Yeah, born to sell out bootleggers. So the RIA like contacts Bruce Springsteen because he's their boy, and he'll sign off because you need an artist to sort of pursue someone to the highest caliber and get the feds involved and all that. So that's eventually what happens. The RIA agent finds out about Tom. He's buying the tapes. He goes to the FBI, and he gets 2 federal agents to start investigating Tom. So I have no idea that this is going on. Tom has no idea this is going on. He just thinks this guy's a cool customer and he's buying lots of stuff. So it turns out that the Bruce Springsteen show from the Meadowlands had been pressed on a CD, which was another bootlegger and had nothing to do with Tom. But, you know, the RA agent, he immediately assumes that Tom is involved in pressing and distributing and importing real pressed CDs, which is a lot harder and a sort of the next level of bootlegs. So Tom, you know, goes on to have a relationship with this guy. We're making lots of tapes. You know, and one day I used to sleep with one eye open. I was convinced that the feds were going to beat down the door. This is the year 2000. I'm thinking to myself, someday there's going to be a knock on the door because I'm hearing horror stories about how the RIA goes to record shows and they track down people that film shows and they're going to take my stuff. So, you know, one day that nightmare almost comes true for me. So this is the story of me and Tom, and at the beginning of the bootleg trailer, Bootleg the Underground Exposed, which we showed on episode 1, we have a trailer and it says, you hear a phone call and it says, you know, the FBI was just here and they took all my tapes. So right now, what I'm going to just tell you the true story of exactly what that trailer was based on and exactly what happened with Tom and me and 2 federal agents. So one day there's a knock on the door, literally 8 a.m., just like my nightmares. Bam, 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 bam. I'm like, holy shit. And I run downstairs. I'm like, you know, wearing my friggin' underwear and shit. And there's Tom standing there drenched in sweat. He's like, dude, the FBI was just at my house and they took every single one of my tapes. They have all my masters and they know who you are and they could be on their way over here. So I grab him. I'm like, get in the fucking house. You know, grab him, throw him on the chair. I'm just like, dude, what the fuck's going on, man? So he says, you know, there's this guy, he used to buy tapes from me. He turns me over to the FBI. It has something to do with Bruce Springsteen. So at this point, I'm not even hearing what he has to say. It's like 8:30 in the morning. I'm half asleep. So I just go, you know, get the hell out of my house. And he's just like, well, they might not be coming over, man. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you know, I tried to help you out. I told them that, you know, you don't sell and you're just a filmer. And, you know, and he says, but the main thing they wanted to know about was how did you know that they were federal agents? So that ties into another part of the story. So let's go back just a little bit. couple of months prior to this banging on the door, I get, Tom and me had got 2 tickets to film Smashing Pumpkins, and I got an inside word that this was going to be the final performance of the Smashing Pumpkins. So, with the original lineup, Darcy was there, Billy, just everyone was there, man. So, I was a huge fan at the time. I had a Smashing Pumpkins tattoo on my arm. I mean, the whole nine yards. Yeah, I mean, it's covered up now. I mean, I'm still covered in these fucking Kiss tattoos, but that's, whatever, man. I'm stuck with that shit. But
I never knew that.
It's true. But I decided that if being a fanboy wasn't for me, and I did have that Pumpkins tattoo covered up. So anyway, man, we get the most amazing seats from our ticket connection for the final Smashing Pumpkins show. And it was in Portland, Oregon, and Tom had gotten sick. And it was supposed to be me and Tom going there to do a 2-cam. We were just going to sit side by side and do our thing and then mix up the footage like we do. And but ends up, Tom says, I'm sick and I can't go. So I take my now second wife with me and we head off to Portland, Oregon to film the final Smashing Pumpkins concert. So I go into the venue and we get the seats, and this shit's custom made for a taper, man. I mean, unobstructed view, front row balcony, dead center. I have 2 cameras, 2 microphones, 2 different telephoto lenses. I'm ready to annihilate this show. But we sit down in our seats, and there's these 2 guys sitting next to us, and there's a seat between me and them, and my wife's in that seat, and they're sitting next to her to my left. And so they're watching me like a hawk, man. And my senses start tingling. I'm like, these guys won't quit looking at me. And so I've got my hand down in the bag and I'm putting the lens on. I'm putting the microphone. I'm taping it up. So they start talking to my wife. They're like, what is he doing over there? Are you guys big fans of the Smashing Pumpkins? I mean, just really out of the norm. I mean, normal people don't just strike up conversations to this level. So they're like, what is he doing? And why are you guys here tonight and everything? So I'm starting to worry about these guys. I'm thinking, they're going to go get security as soon as the lights go out and this whole thing's going in the toilet and I'm not going to get my show. So, so the moment of truth comes, the intro music hits and the lights go down and I unzip my backpack and, I'm looking over my left and I'm looking at them and they're looking at me and I got my hand on the record button and I'm just about to raise that camera out of the bag and I'm looking at them, they're looking at me, and I just say to myself, you've done so much of this, and I just zip up the bag and I put it back and I sit back and I'm just like, we're not getting this shit, we're fucked. So in my head, it was just, I thought these 2 guys might rat off to security. So, a couple songs go by and me and my now ex-wife get up and we head out of the building. And as we're heading out, these guys are literally jumping up and they're like, where are you guys going? What are you doing? And we're just like, we're going to the bathroom, like, fuck off. We thought they were so gabby and weird and kind of effeminate that we thought that these 2 guys were, an old gay couple that were, we just didn't understand what was going on. It was very out of the norm. But so now we get back to the story. Bam, 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 bam. He bring him in the house. And so then he says, I tried to help you and I told them that you're just a filmer. And I go, really? And he's like, he says, yeah. And the most thing that they were interested in is, how did you know that those 2 FBI agents were at the show? And I'm like, I'm kind of not even following him. And I'm like, and I said, well, what did you say to him? And he's like, well, I told them that you're Roy Damm and they could never catch you. I'm like, you motherfucker. So I shit my pants. I kick him out of the house and I lived in a duplex, so I run up the stairs. I'm a little more young and spry at the time, and I run up the stairs, and I used to have 200 boxes of videotapes and masters and all my editing equipment. I had a whole rack of VCRs, and it was crazy, man. So I run up the stairs, and I start sliding the boxes down the stairs on cardboard, just bam, bam, bam. I mean, they're just landing at the foot of the stairs, and it was like poetry in motion. And I have everything in my vehicle, taking it all outside, all 200 boxes, all masters. I'm thinking the FBI is going to pound on the door any second. I jump in my truck and I just get on the interstate. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I'm just shitting in my pants. I'm going to lose my stuff. And so I drive actually into downtown Seattle. And I park in a parking garage because I figure if someone's following me, I'm probably going to have a good chance of finding out who it is. So I go into a parking garage and I go to the top level of it where there's no other cars. And I think to myself, I'm pretty safe. So, I get on my cell phone. I get on my cell phone and I call my wife and I'm just like, shit hit the fan. They raided Tom's house. They're kind of trying to come take my masters. They know about everything. So I need you to come and meet me at this parking garage. So my wife gets off work. She comes to me in a different vehicle with her friends, and they come up to the top of the level where I'm at, and they take all 200 boxes out as fast as they can, and my tapes proceed to be stored in a third-party storage facility with someone that I barely know in a damp, wet basement, barely controllable conditions, but I had everything wrapped in plastic, and my tapes had to sit there for almost 2 years, man. And that sort of forced my first retirement from bootlegs. I actually quit filming shows while the trial thing was happening with Tom. And I had a production company and I made a couple of films. And so Tom, it ends up that what had happened with Tom was they bring him into the court and everything. And at first they're attacking him with, we're going to get, you're going to lose your job. And Tom worked for Amazon at the time. And at the time, Amazon was like literally known for books and CDs. That was all pretty much, they were in the infancy of their company. And Tom was a guy who took orders and flung books all day. But the feds come to him and say, we're going to help make sure you lose your job and you're going to have this big fine. And they all scare tactic the shit out of the guy. And, so they bring him in and they go, we have on the day of his court hearing. And of course they take him in a private room. They set him down, words that aren't his. They present him with a document. They go, we want you to sign here, relinquishing all of your masters to us. We're going to say that you completely cooperated with our investigations. We feel satisfied that we have taken all of your masters and you just relinquish your masters here. And we're going to give you a small fine. Now we're going to, for being a good boy, we're going to help you keep your job with Amazon. So, you see at first they're going to take it away, but then the good RIA giveth back. And, so basically they fear tactic the guy into signing away hundreds of master tapes, and the world will never have them. Now I have a ton of first gens from Tom, and I've archived most of his work, and it's all protected and backed up like all of my stuff, and in good safe places where it'll never be taken away from us. But that is indeed a story that I have to say is just a little bit up on the next level from a couple of old confused guys chasing me for $7 million that they can never collect, Eric.
All right.
I
agree.
That's it, man. It's almost Thanksgiving. It's almost Black Friday. You're probably asking yourself, what would be the perfect gift? Well, at the end of the show, we're going to have live auction results where we're going to have what happens with the auction. We're going to congratulate the winners. And speaking of congratulating winners, I want to thank all of our Patreons. Paul Van Isix, Benjamin Moan, and Stephen Sowell. They are three of our contributors on Patreon. They support the work that we do here. We want to thank everyone that does thank us and help us on Patreon because we need more equipment. We want to convert more shows. We want to bring you guys more stuff so that you guys can have more content. We want to work on our private section for our Patreon only viewers. Check us out on Patreon. We're going to have a lot of cool things coming your way for those that support the network. If you support us, we support you. We're going to make sure that you continue to get the finest quality versions of these shows. Eric, that's pretty much it for this week. It's Thanksgiving. It's that time of year. I want to keep it short and sweet for the people this week, man. Do you have anything?
Everybody. Keep on rocking.
All right, man. I'm Roy Damm. He's Eric Lawton. This is Master Tape Theater, and we'll see you next week. It's party time! Yeah! Be sure to like and subscribe on the channel. Also, support the work we do on Patreon, find us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.